So now that we know that Scream 6 is now scheduled to be released on March 31st, 2023, it looks as though now the studios that are going to be behind this movie are willing to risk it all in the upcoming Scream film, which ultimately kind of gives me the implication that we're bound to see something very shocking debut within the Scream 6 film. But does this implication of having to, quote, risk it all means that our legacy characters Gale and Sidney are no longer going to be a contributing factor after this movie is over and done with, or are we bound to be in for another shocking surprise as, of course, Scream 6 now looms over the horizon? As joining me right now to further tackle the subject of what may or may not occur in the upcoming Scream film is my good friend and YouTuber Marcanine. Now, Mark, me and you are huge fans of the Scream franchise, and we've talked about this time and time again about including elements within the Scream films ever since the inception of 5 that would benefit the franchise in the long run. And I think that when looking at what they're saying in this movie having to, quote, risk it all, I'm only now under the assumption that someone, either that being Gale or Sidney, is bound to be permanently killed off. And the reason why I say this is because in order for Scream 6 to feel authentic, in order for Scream 6 to kind of deliver in a way where you least expect for something to happen, then one of the most unexpected events that you could ever imagine occurring should occur in this movie. And what I wanted to ask you was, when looking at both Gale and Sidney's character, many people can make the argument to say no, don't kill them off because of course it's not needed. And well, on top of that, many people don't like the current cast that we have for Scream 5, but nevertheless, when going into Scream 6, do you see there being a very high possibility to perhaps maybe off one of the characters in the early beginning portion, because it would come as a huge shocker, because we kind of already know how the Scream formula works in the beginning. We see how there's a character introduced, they're ultimately killed, outside of course what happened with Scream 5, but that would be a huge shocker. So what are your overall expectations and thoughts on the overall moniker that they're going to, quote, risk it all in the upcoming Scream 6 film?
You know, you and I spent a lot of time talking about what we wanted to see in Scream 5, and I'll tell you right now, for anybody at all that's listening that had heard those discussions and suspicions that we had, I mean, you and I could not have been more off, even more so me, because I wanted some things that were just not even remotely accurate or possible within the Scream universe. Like, I was taking it to some crazy levels, and I was like, man, I want to see like some cult of people that are like trying to, kill Neve Campbell's character Sidney. I wanted to see this, I want to see that, I want, whatever. I wanted to see like all these blood ties and, dark magic and stuff like that. Like, not real dark magic, but just people that are like trying to do sacrifices and whatever. I was just thinking that'd be like a really cool thing. And now, obviously, in retrospect, like, not only did they not do that, the idea comes across kind of stupid. So I'm sure most people would probably be like, no, that would be terrible, don't do it. So I will be honest, I was very surprised, and I did not like the plot. I didn't like how they used social media as a means of like sort of gauging fans being unhappy with the last stab and trying to like, reboot the series in a different way. I didn't really like that very much, but it tells you that the movie is so self-aware, Scream 5 is so self-aware that it recognizes its own genre, it recognizes the rules, which is true of the Scream franchise, and it recognizes of where the series needs to be elevated in order to stay relevant. My problem with that is that you rely too heavily on crazy fans and how they want to see the in-universe movie franchise stab, how they want it to go, and that's what motivates the plot. And that, I mean, I get it, but it sort of does bug me. I still stand by what I said before, though. I would love to see Gale or Sidney like become the killer. I'm sure some people are probably rolling their eyes. I guarantee it, but that's what I want to see. Because you look at the trauma they've experienced, and you look at how everything went down. Gale is writing books and shit about Dewey getting killed in this reboot and all this stuff, and her experience with it, and Sidney getting involved. And Sidney didn't want to be involved in the first place, but realized that she has an obligation because of all that stuff. And that scene where the killer sees Sid and is like, it's an honor. Like, that's such a really powerful moment, because you have to remember that the point and plot of the story is not involving Sid and not involving Gale. It was a completely different location with different characters that weren't necessarily directly related. But because of the copycat murders and the style of murders that they are, the legacy characters had to come in and try to dismantle the killer's plot and everything like that, right? Which I thought that part of it was interesting, because you think about it, Scream copycat killers could take place anywhere in the United States with characters not involving Sid or Gale, and they're not going to last long anyway, because they're getting older. They probably don't want to play these parts anymore, and the franchise isn't exactly one that lends itself to a whole lot of, I don't know, I guess unique ideas, because they're staying so close to the chest from a social media aspect, or trying to, whatever. You know what I'm trying to say. So I want to see something that we haven't seen before. And them talking about how it's going to be a shock thing for years to come, I don't know if that strikes me as we're going to kill somebody important right from the get-go, because I think that's going to piss off fans. I think you need to pay that respect. I do not like rushed killings just for the sake of, oh, look what we did. It's like, well, you need to have meaning. You need to have a potency with the plot element involving killing a main character. That you think of Game of Thrones before it went to shit. The Red Wedding was so amazing because that show at that point in the books do not play by the rules. The main characters that you root for from start to finish are just as vulnerable as the characters that you're like, oh yeah, that bitch gonna die. Like, they're just as vulnerable. And you remember that when you're reading a book, or you're watching a movie or TV show, whatever, the feeling that you want to walk away from is good guy good, bad guy bad, good guy wins over bad, and you walk away feeling good. No one wants to leave feeling like shit. No one wants to leave knowing that the villains came out on top. Like, no one does. I mean, yeah, sure, you look at Star Wars type franchise and you're like, yeah, I root for the dark side or whatever, but like, honestly, you want the good guys to win. You just do. That's human nature. So when you look at that, you want to make sure that the good guys, if they do die for whatever reason, it has a major like plot point or a major reason behind it. Rushing to kill them just to kill them is not something that'll get you talking for years, unless it's something that you're going to be like, oh man, remember when they killed that character so bullshit like, really fast, like in that, movie or TV show or book, whatever. Like, that part sucks. You need to build it up. And yeah, of course, Gale and Sid stand out as the two legacy characters that have the highest chance of dying, because I think they're the only ones left, right? So naturally, they're probably going to be killed, if not in 6 or in 7. But you don't want to rush it. Even though they've been around for 5 movies and they will be appearing in the 6th movie, you can't rush it. It has to make sense. You have to be respectful of the character. You have to be respectful of the plot that involves these characters. You have to be respectful of the audience. And the audience wants to see them die in an unexpected way, not a rushed way. That's not the same thing. Like, sure, yeah, it's unexpected to rush kill them, but that's also a bullshit way. You gotta treat it with respect. You have to do it right. And I think what I personally want to see in it is I want to see Gale, like we talked about. I still think it would be a great plot to explore that Gale's books aren't selling very well, that it's the same rehashed BS every time, and she needs something to really bolster sales, and she loses her mind and then she kills people. I think that's what they should do. I think that would be amazing. Or have it be like, okay, if you're going to do the multiple killer thing, have someone else be the killer and have Gale be the one that's manipulating it on the back end. And then her thought process is like, well, Sid and I, we always come out on top. Like, we're always okay in the end. Like, I didn't think it was going to be a big deal. We were one step ahead of them. I was just kind of nudging them along so we could have material to write my book, something like that. That's what I would want to see. But if it's just going to be another cousin, another relative or friend, or even someone they don't know that's just like, I don't like how the last one went, so I'm going to go ahead and read the Reddit forums and I'm going to do something different and see what the fans want, that would be a little bit too on the nose. And I don't want to see that again. So if you're focusing on subverting expectations, yeah, kill the main characters. Don't rush it. Don't do it fast. Respect them. Respect the audience. Respect the franchise. Respect the plot. Don't kill them super quickly. Do it in like a very emotional moment. Don't do it in a way where it's like, hey, surprise, we just killed them. How do you like that? Because that's not going to satisfy anyone, and that's gonna really make people mad. But I do think that Sid and Gale should definitely die. Hell, if you want to make Sid the killer, that's fine too. She's got to be losing her freaking mind by now after all these people dying because of her and her experiences. But I think Gale would make the most sense, and I think that would be the most fun, personally.
See, now, I think that you just said something very interesting, and that was introducing like a different element for them to tell the story by subverting our expectations from the beginning and as an example, I think that how crazy would this be, just to set things up, if we had the opening sequence of this movie start off with either Gale or even Sidney. If we started off things with Sidney, because we already know what happens at the beginning of essentially every one of these Scream movies, and that's by having Ghostface run around terrorizing the victim and then ultimately offing them, minus of course 5, but I think it would really set the tone to either introduce the audience to what's to come in the movie, which to that I don't ever see the opening acts of like Scream 6, or even if they wanted to do a sequel to that, Scream 7, basically having, you know, Sidney be the one to die first, but it would be something different. And I think that for the legacy characters at least, because every single one of these movies basically, you know, opens up with either a brand new character or someone that you really don't care about, again, minus Scream 5. So do you think that we could see something of a similar scenario play out, to where everyone kind of expects, okay, a random character to die in the beginning, but in fact the movie opens up with either Sidney or Gale, they're doing their own thing, and it pretty much goes into a situation to where we see, instead of a 5, 10, 15-minute brawl before the victim actually dies, or in this case, like in part 5, how the victim survives, we actually see an all-out brawl that lasts 20, 25, maybe even 30 minutes before the title actually is presented, you know, Scream 6, but instead of a, you know, random character being offed by Ghostface, it's instead either Gale or Sidney. So I want to get your thoughts on that, because although it might seem like a stretch, I think that between the two characters, it would be, I think, a bit more realistic to add Gale dying in the beginning more so than Sidney, because that would give Sidney more of a motivational kind of incentive to hunt down Ghostface after, you know, we had more people be inspired by the previous killers, and now she has lost 2 very close friends. So I wanted to pick your brain in that regard, just to see where you stand on the opening acts of this film, basically having a legacy character die right from the beginning.
I think you described something that falls a little bit in line of what I said needed to be done. Like, so when I said that you had to respect the character and do all that, I think that's exactly it. I think if in the beginning you wanted to kill a character, I guess the way I was just intending that description was, don't let it be the first 5 or 10 minutes like you said. Because, like, let's use Gale as an example. Let's say, hypothetically, and it could be like Gale, it could be Sid, it could be somebody else, whatever. Gale, as a legacy character, we've had 5 movies of her. We as the audience are attached to her. We feel for her, we support her, we like her as a character, like, whatever. Like, you're rooting for her because she's on Sidney's side, she's a good guy, right? We all feel that way. So up until now, we've thought at least Sid, Gale, and Dewey were safe. We know that's not the case anymore because the franchise is going in a different direction. Dewey's dead. Now that means that pretty much anyone can be killed. I think with Gale, even though, and Sidney, even though we've had 5 movies with them going into a 6th one, it has to be just like you said, where let's say killing Gale, you need to have a lot of time with her. You need to feel that connection. You need to feel that emotional draw. If you killed her off in 5 minutes, the past 5 movies wouldn't matter because that 5 minutes would feel unjust. You don't feel an emotional connection to her. Even though you've had 5 movies, you need to feel a connection to her in that movie, in that story, in that moment. Otherwise, who cares that she's dead? Like, honestly, if the difference is how quickly they introduce her on screen to how quickly they introduce her off by killing her. So I think the idea behind having a long intro sequence or a long beginning act or first act, having her where it's just her, you see her daily routine, you see her, you know, going and grabbing coffee, life is going well, she's doing a book signing at Barnes & Noble, life is going really well, you feel for her, you see her have some really clever conversation with her publisher or her agent, you see her going out on a date for the first time, you know, since the Dewey debacle or whatever, I forget if they were actually together in the 5th one, but she's doing her thing, she's living her life, you see her day to day, you see how humanizing her life has become after all the craziness that she's been dealing with the killers in universe. And you connect with her. She says some, you know, witty one-liners here. She, you know, drops some money in a homeless guy's cup on the sidewalk. She, you know, help someone do this. Show that she's a good person. Show that she is the type of person that you would like to see on screen. Make you feel something. Here's a good person. Life is going really well. You really care about her. We know who she is because she's been in the 5 movies up until this point. She's safe by plot anecdotes and cliches, so there's no way that she's going to be killed off. You know, everything's going so well. We see everything. And we see maybe the first, like, she wakes up in the morning at 6 a.m. and she comes home at like 9 p.m. after a long day of running errands and doing things that make us connect and feel for her from an audience to fictional character in a movie type of relationship. She comes home, maybe she, is still got that classic old voice messaging system or whatever, and she clicks play, or maybe she pulls out her cell phone, notices a missed call from a number she doesn't recognize, plays a message, and it's a little weird, and it's just on speaker, and she's in the middle of pouring a glass of wine. Maybe she's making dinner for herself or whatever. Maybe she finds like a picture on the wall or something of Dewey, and she gently slides her hand across it, feeling bad that he's gone, but life goes on and she has to move on and all that stuff. Whatever, and then she hears this message, and maybe something about it is very, very odd. Maybe it's the sound of someone grunting or breathing heavy, or maybe it's this weird thudding noise, and you can't quite make it out as a character in the movie, but as an audience, you know that sound because you've heard it so many times before. That's the sound of someone getting stabbed, they're getting killed, and you can hear it. You hear the grunts, you hear the blade slashing across the flesh, the squishing of the blood. You know what it is, but maybe Gail doesn't quite know what it is. Maybe it's familiar, but maybe she was thinking like, all that stuff is behind me. There's no possible way that that's what that is. So she doesn't give it a second thought. But then she gets a call, and maybe no one says anything. Maybe she can hear the breathing on the other end. Then it click, hang up. She's starting to get a little nervous, but she's tough. She's been through so much, whatever. She then gets another call. She picks it up while she's sipping a glass of wine. She's like, hello, who is this, whatever. And then you hear that classic Ghostface voice. What's your favorite scary movie? And then she's like, oh, what the fuck? Like, are you serious? Like, I've been through this so many times. You're not going to scare me, asshole type of situation. And it goes on, whatever. And then, she hangs up. And then either A, the killer's inside the apartment or the home or wherever she's at already, and they get into a huge fight. And she thinks that she gets away, and maybe she leaves the apartment. Maybe she follows all the rules of how to survive a horror movie. And then something happens where she gets in her car and another killer is there and it kills her. Or maybe, something doesn't happen at all at that night, and she wakes up in the morning and everything's fine. And then she goes in the bathroom, and maybe there's something like written in blood or something there, and then shower curtain opens up and the killer is there, and then the fight ensues. Something like that. Something unexpected. But we need a lot of time with her to see her day so we can remember that she's a person with a routine, with emotions, with feelings, with a job, with friends, how she donates money to charity or to a homeless person, like I said, on the side of the road. Everything in her life just seems so good. There's no possible way that she's gonna get killed. And then she does. That, after a long, lengthy connection and experience with that character in the beginning, is how you start the story, by paying respect. Tons of screen time, tons of dialogue, showing her struggles and her hardships have been overcome, and that she's got everything together in her life, that there's just no way something so bad, so heinous, so evil could happen to her. And then it does. But she puts up a fight because she's tough. She's made it this far. She's made it through 5 movies. She's made it into the 6th one. She's a big deal. She's protected. Oh wait, this is the Stab universe, the Scream universe. They don't play by the rules. She is now susceptible and vulnerable, just like Dewey was. And then she succumbs to the death eventually. That is how you kill her off in a respectful way that pleases the audience, that pleases the plot, that pleases everything, and that is how you pull Sidney back in. You killed Gail, like we rekindled our relationship after the events of 5, and now she's dead. Like, I have to go in one more time and figure out like what's going on, and then, whatever the plot direction wants to go after that. That's how I say you do.
Yo, I'm not gonna lie to you, I was actually pretty hooked based on what you just said, only because I could see, like you mentioned, if Gail does go on a date, with this phone call coming through, on the other end, we hear, the person that she just went on a date with just get murdered, you know what I mean? Or even better yet, of course, as the voice message goes on, you hear like the tone of the person change, so all of a sudden you hear, what's your favorite scary movie? It's been a long time, Gail, like stuff like that. But in the end, we want to go ahead and get your thoughts in the comment section below on the idea of what risking it all means. Could this be in fact be something where they want to get rid of a legacy character, maybe even having more than just 2 ghost faces? Can you imagine if they had 3 or 4? I mean, that may seem like overkill, but they have to present something that is deemed as a threat, unless even if they want to run with 1 ghost face. But this ghost face, as a matter of fact, is incredibly durable, incredibly powerful in a sense where they're stronger, they're bigger, they're faster. I don't know. They need to do something that allows the audience to kind of say, oh crap, this ghost face isn't someone that is like a pushover. We need to like pay attention here because, we've never seen a more aggressive style to Ghostface, to where, as of course we're seeing right now. So again, Mark, thank you so much for joining me. Thank you all so much for watching. If of course you guys are new to the channel, then I do encourage you guys to go on over and smash that subscribe button and turn on all notifications by clicking on the bell icon. That way you guys never miss a single video posted on the channel. Tune back in for more. Give this video a big fat thumbs up right now by smashing that like button down below. Also, I can't wait to see this film. Hopefully there aren't any delays and they really stick to giving us a little bit of a longer film, but also something that is very well marinated when it comes down to expanding on its story. So again, let us know what you guys think. Tune back in for more, and we'll be seeing you all down in the comment section below. Have a great day, everybody, and take care. Peace.